Guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Valentine Lister and this is my Minor Arcana series on the wands, and we're getting, well, actually we're kind of towards the middle because we have the court cards, but today we are going to cover the Nine of Wands. So today we are going to go over everything you need to know about this guy in the card and what's going on. So super excited to go deep into this card. We're going to go into the symbolism of this card. I'm going to go deep into the astrological correspondences of this card because it's actually super important for the Minor Arcana. If you've seen my other videos, you know that there are major arcana cards that rule the Minor Arcana cards, and that actually is related to astrology. And so the astrology associations with this card actually help us understand the card better. So I'm going to share some of that. I'm also going to share about the numerology, other symbols in the cards that you need to know, as well as the upright and the reversed meanings. All right, so I'm going to turn the camera over to the card now and get started. Okay, the Nine of Wands. What is this card all about? Well, first off the bat, I'm going to just remind you of the nickname that I gave it in the easy way to understand the wands when I did that video. And I called this card the Wounded Warrior. So right away when you see this card, you can see that this guy has like been in battle somewhere, has had some rough experiences, and has like toughened up a little bit because of that. All right, next, to give you an idea of this card, I'm going to bring in the major arcana rulers of this card. It will really help you understand it. So by the time I get to the meanings, it's going to make so much sense to you. Okay, so the rulers of this card are the High Priestess and the Temperance card. Why? Because the Nine of Wands represents the moon in Sagittarius. So the moon card, the High Priestess card, let me correct that. The High Priestess card represents the moon and the Temperance card represents Sagittarius. So how does this even make sense? Well, if you watch my tarot and astrology video, I explained kind of that one of the things that happens when we get to the Minor Arcana and why we have cards rule them is that the Minor Arcana card represents an everyday experience. And it represents there is a god or goddess, right, showing up in our life disguised in a costume to represent this experience. And forgot if I mentioned this, but if you haven't caught that tarot and astrology video, I'm going to link it up here on the right. My finger looks so big here. Anyway, and I'm going to also put it in the description box below. So hopefully that'll make more sense to you if you need more info on the rulers of the card. And also that tarot and astrology video will give you an explanation on who even created the system and why. Okay, getting into the hidden symbolism of this card. So you're really going to have to use your imagination to really see how the High Priestess and Temperance show up in this card. So how the moon and Sagittarius show up in this card to represent the moon in Sagittarius. So again, you really have to use your imagination, which I think is really perfect for the moon in Sagittarius. I feel like that is a good description of the moon in Sagittarius. But just a reminder that we're focusing in on this guy right here, this card right here, but we're bringing in these cards to give a testimony, to give an explanation on what this Nine of Wands really means. What I noticed first in this card was that this guy has a cross on the front of him. He's holding this stick and he has this waistband and it looks like it's forming a cross here. And that reminds me of the moon card, and this was an important symbol. She has a cross on her chest, and that represents the polarity and the connection between male and female. The male and female union is what it represents, and there it's showing up right here. You could barely see it, but if you look for it, you can see the symbol showing up. And okay, then the next thing I noticed is he's between like two poles here. You can see like there's two poles here that are kind of surrounding him, and there's a space where he's standing, like right there. You can see he's standing in a space, and that really reminded me of the High Priestess and the two poles that she is sitting in between. And if you remember from the moon card, these two poles, they represent the positive and negative life force. So this pole was the positive life force, and this pole was the negative life force. So in this Nine of Wands card, we see that there is something telling us that there is a polarity going on here. There's this like there's this experience of two different various experiences that are opposite but in some way connected. So the next thing you'll notice in this card, what I noticed, is that he's got a bandage on his head and he's looking towards three sticks, and everything means something in these cards. That's why there's symbolism. So he's looking towards these three sticks, and I'm like, why is he looking towards three sticks? And then I was like, oh, that relates to it. It's a nod to reminding us of the crown for the high priestess, this crown on her head, which represents the three phases of the moon. Remember that, okay, we have the waxing crescent, so that could be like this stick here, and that represents youth and innocence. And then we have the full moon, which might represent like this middle stick here. And the full moon represents that mother phase, representing adulthood and responsibility. And then we have the third phase of the moon, which is the waning moon, and that's the crone phase. And that could represent this stick here, and that represents old age and wisdom. And the other thing that I noticed on the sticks, but you have to look like really, really closely, so I'll try to like hold this up, and you can see like little kind of knots. But this even looks like an eye here. I swear that's like an eye on this card. There's little circles, and there's like longer figures here too, little scribbles, and they kind of remind me of, in this card, we had the pomegranates in the card, and we also have the palms as well. So again, it's like representing the feminine. The pomegranate represents the feminine, and the palms represent the masculine. And the like polarity between the two. So it's like these two different experiences. So this card is really cool. And I think the moon and Sagittarius, which is the high priestess and temperance again, they really fit well together. You know, the moon talks about the polarity between experience, like the extremes of experience. Now, the moon herself is not super extreme, but she's talking about what all of these different experiences in life, like the more masculine, like when we put ourselves out there and we're bold and experiencing life, and the feminine, which is where we're more reflective, more internal. That's more where we take time for ourselves and we're more private and connecting in private. And how these experiences feel. The moon is all about how this life feels to us. What are the emotions that come up? What thoughts go through our minds? Because in traditional astrology, the moon represented the mind. The moon was related to the mind because of that. What is it like to be in a body knowing that the body is temporary, that it's going to change? And, you know, that the body changes all of the time and it's just a temporary home. You know, all of these experiences of life, that's what the moon is all about. And so it also speaks to our home and environment and wanting security, wanting that eternal security, but recognizing eventually that that security does not last in a body. It's in our soul, which we get to later with the major arcana when we get to the sun. It ties in nicely with temperance and and it really tells you a lot about this card because temperance is all about going to the extremes of experience to like find the right mix of things, try to find the right mix of finding the truth in life, because the temperance card is all about truth and meaning. And so the temperance card is all about traveling between extremes, because temperance goes to the river Styx to get the water and then goes to Mount Olympus to get it blessed and gives it to a truth seeker. And so it also talks about like tempering a sword, tempering a batter, which means like when you put hot and cold things together and you have to work really quickly to get it to be the right consistency and the right mix to make your product. And so temperance talks about going to different extremes of experience to really understand it and really get it and the meaning in life. And so that really gives us a hint of exactly what the Nine of Wands means, and this is already speaking to some type of knowledge or learning through experience and actually experiencing life, how life feels to us through these different experiences, which can leave us like pretty tired and worn, like this figure in this card. But it also leads to a lot of wisdom. And so I just wanted to get into a little more symbolism before I go a little deeper in this card. Just because I think it's fun to like look at the symbols that come up. But when I started looking at the Temperance card, I'm like, this doesn't relate at all. And then I realized that this stick is coming across this guy's foot here, just like how the Temperance card is dipping their toe in here, or their foot here in the water, and one foot is on the earth. So we have also one foot grounded here, one foot behind the stick. And you know, the wands represent an emotion too, and the water does represent emotion as well. And so we have this kind of like guy here, part of him is being protected, and then part of, you know, and is perhaps fearful. And the other part is super grounded, super wise, ready to take action if needed. And so also like there's this feeling in this card, this one here, the Nine of Wands, which we're talking about, hello, that there's like this decision being made of, you know, being safe and protected versus going out and going beyond your limits. And I just think this card is funny because you think he's protecting himself, but I'm like, maybe he's running from something. Like, is he like behind the fence of wands, or is he outside the fence of wands? Like, is he going to run at any minute? I get this feeling that I'm not sure if he's really staying safe behind a wall, or he's going up beyond the wall to fight again. We can't really see this clearly from where we're viewing it as a reader. And again, that ties into the Moon card, because the Moon card is all about mystery, the things that we don't understand and the things that are unseen. And you can't really see exactly the entire scene that's going on in this card. Okay, and the last thing before we get into the numerology of the card is the colors that really struck me, and they really seem consistent between all the cards. Like, I just see overwhelmingly there's this blue theme, and whenever we have this light blue color in these Rider-Waite Tarot cards, it means compassion, mental clarity, and serenity. So a lot of compassion going on. Even though there's like this fiery energy with the wand, which is like that's like action, confidence, drive, desire, all of those like fiery emotions. And then the other thing I see is there is a ton, like, you know, he has these like green feet, which is also why it made me think like he's about to run or something, like he's ready to go. But it also means like the green means healing, growth, fertility, and prosperity. So this is a person who is definitely growing from their experiences, and we can see it from those colors. And if you're wondering how to know what each color means, I made a video, so I'll link it up here in the top right and link it in the description below. Because the thing is, the colors themselves tell a story, the symbols tell a story, and I'm telling you, once you really know the colors, the meanings of the cards also come quicker as well. All right, so the numerology of the card really helps us as well. So this card is ruled by the number 9. Hope you're up on your Roman numerals. So number 9 is the last number before we restart at 1. And you're like, what do you mean? You know, the next number is not 1, but if you're into numerology, it is, because we always add the numbers down. So we have 10, and so you would separate the 1 and the 0, add them up, you get a 1 again. So what does this mean? It means the end of a cycle. Wisdom through experience, integration, represents compassion, tolerance, humanitarianism, completion, wholeness, satisfaction, and intellect. And like, I think that's so cool, because we're already like talking about this person has wisdom from experience, going through extremes of experience, really feeling that experience, really knowing the downsides and the fears and the hard knocks of life related to those experiences, but also someone who's brave and who's willing to go back into battle again, back into that fight again, and go to those extremes to just to get wisdom from that and get the right like mix of life. And I love it when I bring the numerology in and it speaks to exactly, you know, the meaning of what we just talked about. So even if you know little things like numerology or colors and things, it helps things really start clicking for you. Okay, so the upright meaning of this card. So the upright meaning is all about facing the challenges that life brings with courage and conviction, just like the guy in the Nine of Wands. So it means that a conflict or challenge related to your romantic relationships, your children, neighborhood, work, career, things like that are wands-like may come up. But the good news is that it's something that you faced before and you will have the strength to get through it. It actually may be fun because you have trained for this and you can handle it. And even if it's not, you'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and know that the situation will be over soon. So there's good news there. All right, so if the card comes out reversed, it means the energy is being blocked or avoided. So generally with the wands, this means crankiness, being drained of energy, or having arguments. So this card still means having a conflict or challenge at work, in your neighborhood, etc. The things I mentioned before, like relationships, children, romance, career, work, things like that. But you're probably going to be immature with dealing with it, I'm sorry to say. You definitely know how to deal with it with wisdom and integrity, but you'll probably choose to be petty, hostile, or aggressive, including passive aggressive. No judgment here. So I have some examples from my tarot journal. And so like on that day when I pulled it reversed, I was pushing or people were pushing past each other in a grocery store. It wasn't like me pushing past, but I was in a rush. Everybody was in a rush. Like I was, you know, and then I was like late getting my daughter at school and I was just making excuses like, it's not my fault. I was stuck in traffic, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm a teenager making excuses, right? Going to school. But I could have left earlier. And I did that day almost yell at a guy for like running me over at the bus stop. And I was ready for a fight. I was like acting like I'm tough. I was being too aggressive. Like I was ready for a fight because I had my daughter there and I was like, oh, hell no. Like you need to stop. This is a nice neighborhood and let's keep it that way and not act like savages and make sure to stop for the freaking kids who are crossing the street from the bus. So it was that kind of energy, that kind of day. And I was trying to film videos when I already knew I didn't have the time that day because of a schedule with kids, but I did notice in all of that I still had the ability to reflect on my actions and had the wisdom to know better. And also with my tarot journal, it's been a really great experience with understanding and learning the cards. I've been doing it for the past couple months. It's definitely up my game. So I will link that video up here if you haven't gotten that, so you can check it out and get started with your tarot journal yourself, because it really is the best way to understand the cards. It's well worth the time in doing it. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video on the Nine of Wands. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments below. And this is just a quick reminder to make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified if you want to catch my next video, which will be on the Ten of Wands. So we're getting towards the end and then we'll be getting into the court cards of the wands. If you have not caught my other videos and want to catch up on my other tarot card videos, I'm going to put a playlist for the minor arcana right here. And I'm also going to put a related video for the minor arcana up here for you guys to enjoy. All right, take care. Take care, guys. Love you. Bye. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified for whenever I release a new video every single week.